Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, The Power of Thoughts and Health. My name is Susan Valakis, and I will be your host for this event. We have quite a large audience joining us today, so all lines have been muted, and we will not be taking questions during or after the webinar. But that said, we will take questions by email. So please, if you have a question, go ahead and use that chat bubble that you see on your screen, submit your question, and then you will receive a reply by email. I'd also like to let you know that you will receive an email about an hour after this event ends with a link to the replay of today's lecture, so you can listen to it again or share it with others. Today's webinar is sponsored by the National Health Research Institute, which was founded by the late Elwood Richard. NHRI is a nonprofit organization that supports science-based research on natural health and wellness and is committed to informing the public about scientific evidence on the usefulness and cost-effectiveness of diet, supplements, alternative therapies, and a healthy lifestyle. And you can learn more about the NHRI and find a plethora of information on various natural health topics by visiting naturalhealthresearch.org. And now I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Patrick Massey as our guest speaker for today's presentation, The Power of Thoughts and Health. Dr. Massey received his medical degree from Rush Medical School and completed his residency in internal medicine at Rush Medical Center. His PhD is in immunology from Northwestern University Graduate School of Medicine, and he also holds his doctorate in spiritual studies from Delphi University. Currently, he is the president of AltMed, Medical and Physical Therapy Integrative Medicine, and the author of the book, Miracles or I Have No More Boils. Dr. Massey is also on staff at the Alexian Brothers Medical Center and is the past director of the program in complementary and alternative medicine for the Alexian Brothers Hospital Network. He's a longtime featured writer for the Daily Herald newspaper, and he has published extensively in the traditional and non-traditional medical literature in both laboratory and clinical research. So with that impressive background, please join me in welcoming Dr. Patrick Massey as he explores the life-altering power of your thoughts and your health. Welcome, Dr. Massey.
Well, thank you, Sue, for that really nice introduction, and I want to welcome everybody who's here for the lecture. Thank you for attending, and I also want to thank the NHRI and all the folks associated with it for actually making this presentation reality. And I told Sue that I've given many lectures, and I've even given lectures online, but this is the first time I've ever given it live online. So if I make a few faux pas, please forgive me. Today's lecture is on the power of your thoughts to affect your health, but it's not a review of all the medical literature that's out there saying if it can help you with this and help you with that. I think more importantly is we need to really understand what thoughts actually are, and why thoughts, which is a form of basically energy, why thoughts actually can affect your physical health. And we're going to go into this, and we're going to be describing how this actually works, so that we have a really good understanding and not just a cursory understanding of it. So when we look at the word man, either as human or man or woman or however we use the word man, the etymologic origin actually comes from Sanskrit, from the word manu, and manu means to think or thought or thinker. So the way that we describe ourselves, at least in English, the way that we describe ourselves is as thought. You could imagine that we describe ourselves as a physical representation of thought, or a physical representation of a thinker. And if that's the case, then we would certainly say, well, our thoughts probably should have some effect on our own physical well-being and our physical health. Okay, so thoughts do affect our health. And if I go to the National Library of Congress, there's an area in the National Library of Congress called PubMed, and that's where all the medical studies and scientific uh, studies and publications are published from across the world. So there's a great deal of information there. And when I go to PubMed and I simply look under the word thought and health, or thought and physical health, I find over 7,000 medical articles describing the effect of thought that has on our physical health and our well-being without even looking at specific illnesses or diseases or even mechanisms. If I look at mental health, it's even more. So thoughts affect our physical health, and thoughts can affect our mental health of over 9,000 studies and publications at PubMed. And surprisingly, when I looked at spiritual health, which is something that we normally don't address in traditional medicine, or we don't normally address in basic research, there were over 400 articles talking about how thoughts can affect our spiritual health. So we can see that thoughts, that even in the traditional medical literature, that thoughts can affect all how we define ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. But when we think about thoughts, we think about our brain, and we've been taught to do that. We've been taught that when you have a thought, it happens in your brain, and that thought has some effect on the endocrine system, or some thought on the immune system, and again it causes these physiologic transformations. But considering how complex thoughts are, so if you think about your thoughts on a daily basis, how many thoughts you have, how many thoughts you have had in your lifetime, and you can remember them. So it's not only having a thought, but it's remembering the thought, it's processing and reprocessing and organizing. We start to run into some physical limitations with the brain itself, because we don't think with the whole brain. Most of the brain is not um, uh, used for thought. Most of the, and we'll go through this, most of the brain is used to process other information. So when we think about thought and all the things that we think about, and all the things that we've learned and we remember, and you throw in emotions in there too, it's really much too complicated for our physical brain, considering that as when we reach adulthood, we lose about 1 million neurons a day. So between early adulthood and later in life, our brains are not getting bigger, our brains are getting smaller. So if thought was happening only in our brains, we would have less thinking going on, or less ability to think, than we did when we were very young. And that's not the case. So really thinking is much too complicated for the brain by itself. So we need to expand our understanding. We need to kind of take a step outside of ourselves, and then say, well, if it's not happening here, where is it going on, and does it make sense? And does it make sense? So let's look at that, the science. Whenever I have questions, or don't understand something, I will try to find, look at the science and see, does the science fit whatever it is that I'm being told? And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, then you really have to start digging into areas that may be unfamiliar, and that's actually kind of fun. So I hope we're going to have some fun here today. Okay, so let's look at the brain. This is a depiction of the brain. This is part of the brain back here. This huge piece of the brain sitting in the back of your head is associated with vision and processing visual activity, which is the reason why if you fall down and you hit the back of your head on the ground, you start seeing stars, and that's because this part of the brain has been bruised, and that's the result. So this part of your brain is associated with processing visual stuff. This part of your brain, this blue part of your large part of your brain, is associated with processing senses, touch and heat and cold and pain and many and our physical senses is processed in this very large piece of the brain here. This large piece of the brain here is involved with the processing of our physical movement, our standing, our walking, moving our jaws, moving our eyes, whatever it is that we need to do. It's associated in this part of the brain here. This part of the brain down here, and this yellow part of the brain is really associated with hearing. And this it's a large area, and it's associated with processing what it is that we hear. This little area of the brain here, it's called the Wernicke's area, and this is where we understand speech. So if somebody's talking to you, it's being initially processed in some areas, and then is finally put together here, so we can understand speech. And this here, the Broca's area, is how we how we understand speech and are able to actually to speak. This little tiny area right up here is where it's believed that we process all of our thoughts, and where our thinking comes from is in this little tiny area here, which is probably 1/6 or less of the total brain. So given the complexity of thought itself, and given the fact that we're losing 1 million neurons a day, since early adulthood, it becomes increasingly difficult to say say that this is the area of the brain where all of our thoughts and memories are at, and there's actually no good evidence to support that. So let's just ask a couple of questions. Do we know where a thought originates, where the thought finally comes from? And the answer is no. We actually have no idea. We simply assume it is somewhere in the brain that thoughts originate. How are thoughts linked together? So when you have a thought, there's always another thought coming with it, and another thought, and another thought. How are they linked? Now, if they were linked permanently, we would always have the same thoughts, but we don't. So our thoughts are able to link and unlink and reassemble, and the complexities involved with this are exceedingly large. How do we organize a thought? So how do we know that we're going to have a thought and it's going to be organized in a certain way that we can understand it? And this next question, I think, is critical, is how do we interpret a thought? How do we know that we're actually having a thought? We have to have a thought on the thought that we're having in order to understand the thought. That's a level of complexity that even quantum computers couldn't deal with. Where is inspiration located? Where do you get these sudden bursts of inspiration and discovery? We have no idea where they're located. We simply assume it's located in that little front part of the brain. How do we learn and retain new stuff? The fact that we can learn our entire lives and we can retain stuff our entire lives and still be losing 1 million neurons a day, you have to say the brain at some point in time becomes incapable of even rationally saying that this is where all this stuff is going on. And why are some people more smarter or talented? So people with higher IQs tend to have a little bit denser concentration of neurons. It doesn't mean that everybody with denser concentration of neurons is smart. That's not true. We simply look at that and say, well, this person's smart because they have more neurons. But it doesn't answer any of the other questions. Where is talent at? Okay, I can't play the piano, but some people can. Where is that located at? Okay, and if I practiced really hard, I could play the piano. So where did that come from? Where is that ability at? And these are things that we look at and we go, if we try to explain that all that stuff, along with all the thinking we do and everything that we do, is located in that little tiny area in the front of the brain, we are probably deluding ourselves, and so science has a very difficult time in explaining thoughts. So, oops, no. Here we go. So, I'm just going to back up a second. Okay, there we are. So the brain is an organ that processes information from your eyes, information from your ears, information from your senses, information from your motor function. Its main function is to process information, not to think. And we tend to really ignore that because it doesn't fit with what we understand in science. So what it means is that thoughts may not originate inside of the physical brain, and that's an idea that in the United States, in Western medicine, Western science, that we have a very difficult time with. In other culturally based medical systems or in other culturally based science systems, they believe that the human body is composed of various energy systems, and these energy systems play a role in our overall health and in our thoughts, and we'll go over that. But for right now, let's change gears, because we're not going to find the answers that for the questions that we're asking in traditional medicine. We're not going to find it in traditional physiology, metabolism. We're going to have to take a little side road into physics. Sir Isaac Newton, was born in 1642. One of the most brilliant minds in recorded Western science, believed that matter and energy were different. He actually defined energy by its effect upon matter. He couldn't even define energy. So heat is energy because it heats up matter. Light is energy because it lights up a room. So this has been the concept in science. This has been the concept in traditional medicine for the past 300 years. It hasn't really changed. So in our concepts in medicine and our concepts in many aspects of science, matter and energy are different. So we're constantly trying to explain things without realizing that matter and energy are equivalent. So Albert Einstein, back in 1905, came up with a series of revolutionary theories. One of his theories of relativity said that E equals mc squared, which means that energy is equal to mass accelerated at the speed of light squared, which means that matter and energy are interchangeable. I can change energy into matter, and I can change matter into energy by simply rearranging this equation. We don't necessarily have the technology to do it all, but the math was very, very solid. At about the same time, there were two scientists, Niels Bohr and Max Planck, came up with the idea of quantum physics. Now, years ago, nobody heard of quantum physics. Now it's become not an unfamiliar term, and this came out, and this was done about the same time that Einstein was coming up with this series. And what Niels Bohr and Max Planck said is that everything is energy, and that was revolutionary, and it continues to be revolutionary. And this is where we need to be when we're thinking about thought. And let me explain that now like this. Let's look at the hydrogen atom. It's one electron, and it's one proton. And 99.999% of this atom is empty space. Now it's not empty; it's actually full of energy. But we perceive it in Newtonian physics, where you have matter and energy. We perceive it as being empty space. So the hydrogen atom is basically almost not there. The electron really has no mass. It's an energy waveform. A proton, however, is composed of smaller particles called quarks. Sounds like a noise a duck could make. And a proton is composed of three quarks, two up quarks and one down quark. And quarks really don't have any mass. Quarks are energy waves. So a proton is composed of nothing more than energy waves, which means that the hydrogen atom is actually a miniature force field made up of energy waves. It has no physical matter to it when you get down to the smaller and smaller pieces. All matter in the universe that we know of is made up of atoms. and therefore all matter is nothing more than energy and energy waves. And this is the concept that is critical for understanding how our thoughts affect us. So the universe, everything in the universe, the planets, the suns, the galaxies, the asteroids, everything is just energy vibrating at different frequencies. This energy moves, it interacts, and it endures. And that's what an energy does. And thoughts, whoops, there we go. Thoughts are energy also, because there's no mass to a thought. You can't put a thought on a scale and say it weighs 2 pounds. It's energy. It moves. We know that it moves. It interacts. The fact that thoughts affect your own physical health means that it's interacting, and we'll see that thoughts can endure, good or bad. So if everything in the universe is energy, that means that we are also energy. We may have a physical appearance, but that's just an illusion from our point of view. We make a lot of electricity every single day. Every time your muscles moves, your heart beats, every time your brain does anything, it creates electricity. So when you look at an EKG and you see those little blips that they see on the EKG, that's registering the electrical current moving through your body. With a changing electrical current, we create a measurable magnetic field. So we are all living magnets. We create a huge amount of heat on a daily basis, and heat is energy. How is that regulated? How do we not burn up? How do we freeze? How does my right hand not be 15 degrees warmer than my left hand? We have no idea how that actually works. And because we have a perceived mass, we do have a measurable gravitational field, and we emit a wide range of light, from infrared all the way to ultraviolet. And some recent research out of Japan a few years ago was showing that humans actually emit light in the visible range. So you can see somebody, you can see light. Now, there are some people in this world who are able to see energy fields, and they are able to see the energy fields of living organisms, because we have a lot of energy, and then they're commonly called auras, and anybody can learn how to see an aura in about 20 minutes. It's not hard to do, but it is these energy fields that play a critical role in our own health and in our own thoughts. So when we look at Oriental medicine, we look at traditional Oriental medicine, they believe that we have an energy field that's full of an energy called chi, and that chi and energy has a critical role in our health. When you use acupuncture needles, you are not moving endorphins in circulation. You're actually moving energy from one part of the body to the other, or from one aspect of the body to the other. The same thing in that goes in an Oriental medicine, acupuncture, massage therapy, qigong breathing, herbs, supplements, all these things affect the energy field. That's the concept behind it. Same thing in India with Ayurvedic medicine and their concept of energy, which is prana. It's the exact same thing as chi, except it's just a different word. So there are science systems outside of Western science that do believe that we have all these intricate and interrelated energy systems outside of the physical body. There is no specific location in the brain that stores thoughts. We've never found it. I can't take out a little piece of the brain and say this is where all of the thoughts when you were 5 years old. This is where they're stored. They're not. They're all over we just can't find it. So that implies that there is an unrealized bioenergy system, perhaps not inconsistent with that which we see in traditional Chinese medicine or traditional Oriental medicine, and even in our Ayurvedic medicine, and even Native American medicine believe that we are linked with a bioenergy system. Matter of fact, I just read an article a couple of days ago in one of the physics journals where they proposed that the human brain is actually linked with everything in the universe in a quantum field using something called fractals. I'm not going to go into that, but this is a science, but the science that there is more to us than what we can just physically see seems to become is becoming a reality. I'm going to describe an energy system that I think works well. There are many ways of describing it. This one is pretty simple for me, and so that's the reason why I like it. We have an energy field called the etheric body, and it's an energy field that is at the absolute identical to our physical body, all the way down to the subatomic particles. And it's this etheric field, for the purposes of this lecture, is the etheric field, which is intimately involved in our own health. If our etheric field is very strong, the etheric field provides energy to our physical body in order to be healthy. If our etheric field is weak, it starts to develop holes, and that opens up the door for illness and disease. We also have another an energy field called the astral or the emotional field that sits outside of the etheric body, and that's where our emotions are located. And we also have a mental field, which is even farther out. Now, how do these things interact? Well, we have a thought outside of our body, because it's much more complicated and can handle the complications of mental thought. It has to travel through the astral field, where it picks up an emotion, and now we have a thought and an emotion that goes crashing into the etheric field, and if it's a negative thought and a negative emotion, it causes damage to the etheric body, ultimately resulting in damage to the physical body, and it also as it goes through the etheric body, this thought travels up to the brain, where the information is processed, where we can now think and realize that we're thinking. As we do this, we also release our thoughts in this direction also. So if it's a positive thought, it strengthens the etheric field from the outside, and then it also strengthens the etheric field from the inside. So we get a double hit. If it's a negative thought and a negative emotion, it does just the opposite. It weakens the etheric body from the outside and weakens the etheric body from the inside. And that's part of the reason why our thoughts have a positive effect or a negative effect on our physical bodies. Thoughts come basically in two forms. They come as waves, where there's not a specific target. These are often random in nature. These are just our everyday thoughts with what we're thinking about. I've got to go to the store. I got to get gas. My taxes are due. I got, things like this, and they're random in nature. They're diffuse, and these thoughts weaken over this distance. However, when you're in large groups, you can get this group thought, and that resonates with like energy. If you've ever been to a sporting event, if you've ever been to a professional football game, throughout the game, you can feel the energy as everybody is resonating at the same frequency. They're really happy, they're really sad, they're really angry, they're really glad, and it can be exhausting. And if these thoughts are in a large enough group, it ends up almost being like a rogue wave on the ocean, where these massive waves come at you. And if it's a good rogue wave, it's a positive rogue wave, then your etheric body gets a real benefit. If it's a bad rogue wave, then your etheric body is hit pretty hard. I remember after watching the Bears lose consistently to the Green Bay Packers, I'm not so much a Packers fan, but I am a Bears fan. I always feel bad. And after a Bears game, when I was working in the emergency room, when the Bears game would be over, and if they lost, I would have a great influx of patients. If they won, it was pretty quiet, and it has to do, I think, with these thoughts. Another structure that thoughts take is as a form. It's a specific thought. It has an intention. It has a form. It has a structure, and there's a specific target. So if you're wishing somebody good feelings, I'm wishing my husband or my wife good feelings. I'm sending them love. I'm sending good thoughts to somebody so that they'll heal. That's a very specific thought. There's no distance that it can go where it will lose strength. It maintains its strength for until it reaches its specific target. You could be, and we do the same things to ourselves, either positively or negatively, and we'll go about that. And there's a specific effect, and this effect may persist because that form can persist for a long time. It can be recharged. So if you're sending somebody good thoughts on a daily basis, that thought form standing over by that person is constantly recharged. Or you could be doing it if you're thinking bad thoughts to say about yourself. Well, that thought form is standing right next to you and is constantly pounding on your etheric body, increasing the risk of illness and disease. Okay. When we look at humans, one of the problems when we look at our thoughts is all of our thoughts have emotions, and we don't do a very good job on controlling our emotions. They're very poorly controlled. They're chaotic. They're in constant turmoil. Our emotions are up and down and up and down. I have patients who are actually proud of the fact that they say they can't control their emotions. I'm a very emotional person. I'm proud of that, and blah, 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 blah. But it's exhausting. It's exhausting because the etheric body, which is what keeps your body healthy, is constantly being pounded by wave and wave and wave over constant emotions. Our thoughts in the mental layer are also in this particular point in time are also poorly structured. We have very limited time or desire for really deep thinking, and it may be because of our technology, where we have an instant access to almost everything, so we don't really have to think about anything, and we can always go on somebody else's opinion without really having to think about it. And the third thing about our thoughts is that, and I'll go into this in a minute, is we have this constant outpouring of mostly negative thoughts. So if you were to sit down with a pen and paper and check off every time you have a positive thought or a healthy thought, as opposed to every time you have a negative thought, you would find that most of your thoughts are coming up quite negative. So we have negative thoughts with chaotic emotions crashing into our etheric body, creating really this world of illness and disease. And it's not getting better as science and medicine has gotten better. It's not getting better. It's actually getting worse. Patients are more complicated. The disease is more common. It's happening earlier in our lives. Things that didn't happen until our 30s or 40s are happening now in our teens. And it has to do, I feel, with our thoughts. So our thoughts will determine our health. So if you have positive thoughts, you're going to be healthier. If you have negative thoughts, you're not going to be healthy. The Dalai Lama said, consider that not only do negative thoughts and emotions destroy our experience of peace, and peace is a wonderful thing that we all talk about wanting some, but we very rarely get there, but they also undermine our health. It's only during quiet. It's only during, if you look at Chinese medicine, it's only during the yin phase, not the yang phase. It's only during the quiet, when our bodies become quiet, when our minds become quiet, when we turn to more positive thoughts, that is the only time that our bodies actually heal. They don't heal when we're physically active running around. Okay, so let's just look at some thoughts that follow with us every single day: anxiety, contempt, guilt, shame, disgust, hatred, jealousy. Fear is absolutely huge. I have many patients where fear is the major reason why they have any illnesses whatsoever. Self-loathing is absolutely huge, especially among young women and middle-aged women, feeling of inadequacy. And I'm seeing it more happening in younger folks too, based upon other factors. And these all affect you. All of these kind of thoughts influence you every single minute of every single day. So if your thoughts are negative, it will be influencing you every single day. It affects your thoughts, it affects your moods, and really ramps up all of your fears. All of these things, again, have a profound effect at just pounding against that etheric body, punching holes in it, and creating opportunity for illness and disease. It also affects your view of yourself and of the world. If you don't have a real good vision of yourself, you probably don't have a real good vision of the world. The world is a terrible place. How do you see yourself? I have all these negative things. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I have all these fears. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it impacts on yourself and on your world. So wherever there are holes in your etheric body, you actually lose an energy. And when the physical body starts losing an energy, it starts to break down, and that just gives an opportunity for illness and disease to really kind of come in and take root. So we actually live in a negative thought world. About 70% of all of our thoughts, there's some interesting research on this, are negative thoughts. And there was a gentleman, cardiologist, who wrote a book years ago called Be Careful What You Pray For. And what he found in his research, his name is Larry Dawsey, is that about 70% of all prayers are negative, are about wishing bad things to happen to somebody else, or actually wishing bad things to happen to yourself as a form of self-punishment. And when he published this book, he got an absolute ton of letters, because this was before the days of email. He got a ton of letters back. He got thousands and thousands of letters talking to him about his book. And he said that about 70% of the response to his book were negative thoughts, wishing him bad things, that he would die, that he would fall and break his leg, that he's a horrible human being. So it really was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. 70% is negative. The thing is that we seem to be predisposed to negative. So if we're predisposed to negative, we are predisposed to illness. The one follows the other. 90% of all news media, no matter where it comes from, no matter who's doing it, is negative. Negative sells, positive doesn't. Nobody reports the news anymore. They report their interpretation of the news, and they're always making sure that they're ginning up your emotional responses. Bad news, really bad news, outweighs good news by the rate of 17 to 1. 1 in 10 American adults checks the news every hour. So one in 10 is being inundated with negative news every single hour. 27 to 20% of those exposed to negative news that develop anxiety. Many of my patients who come to me because of anxiety, they all watch too much news, and they all listen to the news and just get wired up about it. 69%, actually interesting, 69% of us actually prefer reading negative to positive. So most of us prefer reading about hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes to little Tommy's dog that fell into the sewer was rescued. We would rather read about death and destruction than happiness and health. I think it's fascinating. 60, this is important. 63% of kids say that news makes them feel bad. This is important because children's energy systems are not yet developed. So things that impact their energy systems as a child will stay with them their whole lives. I can remember things that I was told when I was a child, that I can still remember today like it happened today. And there's always an emotion that goes with it. And that emotion, it doesn't seem to die out. So what you say to your children, how you talk to your children, how you encourage or discourage your children will probably have a major effect on their health down the road. Now we talk about illness and disease being genetic. I think this particular aspect of it has a greater impact than being genetic. I think that the environment a child grows up in is a much greater determiner of health or illness. Nothing can harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. That's absolutely true. Absolutely, how you think about yourself, how you think about others, can cause over time, can cause great harm to you physically, mentally, and spiritually. So let's look at thoughts and the body. Our physical body is unable to make any independent decisions. It has to respond literally to every thought that you have and to every thought that others have. So let's say that you're having a good day and yet your body's responding in kind. It feels pretty decent. And somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, have you gained weight? You don't look very good." Do we continue with our happy thoughts? No, we suddenly accept their thoughts. Then your body starts to feel achy, and feel heavy and feel uncomfortable because the body has to respond to literally every single thought. Negative thoughts increase the risk of illness and disease, and we've known this for a long time. So one of my favorite stories is a story of a Native American grandfather talking to his grandson, telling him about life. And what he says to him, he says, grandson, you have two wolves inside of you that are constantly fighting for dominance. One is a black wolf, it's anger and greed and makes you unhappy and violent and all these negative things. And the other one is a white wolf that is love and positive and healthy and it makes life good for you. And he says, and one of them will win. The black wolf or the white wolf, one of them will win. And the little grandson is obviously thinking deep and getting somewhat distraught. And he goes, "How do I know which one's going to win?" And the grandfather says, the one that will win is the one that you feed. So if you're feeding negative is going to win. Okay, Bruce Lee, a very interesting, a good, excellent martial artist and interesting philosopher, said, "Do not speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body does not know the difference. Your body doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know idiom. It doesn't know alternate meanings. It is a literal organ. Words are energy, and they cast spells. And then this thing about casting spells, this is actually the basis of dark magicians is using words to create negativity. Okay, thoughts and body is unable to. Oh, I did that already. Okay, so what do you think your body will respond to? So if you say I am forgetful, and you say it on a regular basis, your body will make sure that you're forgetful. Okay, if you say I am always in pain, your body will say, okay, we are always going to be in pain. You need to change your view of pain so that you're not always in pain. But if you say I'm always in pain, your body will definitely oblige. I am scared of getting whatever the disease it is. I have a couple of patients who 20 years ago told me that they were worried about developing a certain disease. They had no history of it in their family. They had no lifestyle that was conducive to that. They had no risk factors whatsoever. And today, both of them have the disease that they were afraid of getting 20 years ago. So either they're clairvoyant, which I don't think that they are, or they created their own illness. I'm never going to get well. This is a common one. Well, if you're never going to get well, if you think that, then it doesn't matter what you do, you'll never get well. Okay, I've had some patients doing physical therapy that say I'm never going to get better, and they don't respond to the physical therapy at all. Or people are inadequate. This one is very common. Everybody feels inadequate in something. It depends how much time you spend feeling inadequate. And old and frail. Well, I mean, I should expect all these illnesses I have because I'm 70 years old and I'm really frail. Age is not much of a factor for getting illness. So if but if you're thinking yourself that you're frail, that's pretty negative. If you think getting old is negative, that's pretty negative too. It will manifest itself, and you will be old, and you will be frail. Because that's what you're thinking that you want to be. So let's look at some numbers. Let's look at depressive thoughts and the incidence and severity of coronary artery disease and myocardial infarctions or heart attacks. There's over 8,000 research articles in the traditional medical literature linking depressive thoughts with severity and incidence of heart problems. And this I think is interesting because COVID's only been around a few years, but Depressive thoughts increase the risk of severity of COVID, the longevity of COVID, the chance of hospitalization of COVID, the chance of developing long COVID, the chance of end organ damage second to COVID. 16,000 articles over the past four years linking depressive thoughts and the severity of COVID. Type 2 diabetes, 22,000 articles. Inflammation and pain, 15,000 articles. Early death or sudden death, 21,000 articles, just with negative thoughts, just with depressive thoughts. So let's talk some protection strategies. You can change your environment. You can avoid things. You can build shells and walls. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about crystals. We might talk about crystals. Time's an issue, and we talk about being in nature. You can change yourself, and this is really the goal is to actively resist negative thoughts and to increase positive thoughts, and you can do that through meditation and energy practice and healing of yourself. Okay, so when we talk about avoidance, it doesn't mean going in and living in the forest all by yourself. This is an interesting picture because this person's got a life saving ring locked onto his his abode, and it doesn't look like there's any water around. But one thing that you can do is you can just stop. You can just really limit news and media. You can limit being in groups that are negative, and these are all groups, even family groups. You can work on recognizing negative things at work and avoiding these rather than trying to deal with them. You can link a positive thought. A good way of doing it is to link a positive thought to a negative thought. So you have a negative thought, immediately link a positive thought to it. Then when that negative thought comes back in, what will happen is that it will be constantly linked to a positive thought, and eventually you're going to starve the negative and you're going to feed the positive, and you start doing this with everything. And so your thoughts become overall more positive, and your health overall becomes becomes better. This is a very effective thing, but you have to practice at it. Just can't do it one time. Walls and shells are good. You actually put up a wall around you. You mentally put up a wall. It's very effective, and it's really best in crowds, or if you're traveling at the airport where there's a lot of negative. There never used to be this much negative at airport. There is. So you can protect yourself with this. The downside is it constantly needs to be renewed. About every 20 minutes to a half an hour, you need to kind of re-energize your wall. Another downside is that it blocks receiving and sending. So if somebody's sending you good thoughts, it's going to block it. If you're going to send somebody good thoughts, it's going to block it. So it's a form of isolation. It's good temporarily, but it's not good. I think all the time. You can become a very lonely person. A lot of people like using crystals because historically they've been used as a protection. They don't really protect. It has to do with the fact that crystals vibrate at a very high frequency, and it stimulates your own high frequencies, so it makes you unresponsive to the low frequencies of negative thoughts, your own negative thoughts and negative thoughts of others. So you spend more time in the higher frequencies and the positive thoughts. And if you're around crystals long enough, it can kind of start to reset your system to being more positive overall, and being less negative. It can remove attachments, which are negative thoughts that somebody has on you. This would be a thought form. Remember, it goes somewhere. And it can remove blocks, and these are negative thoughts that you have about yourself. So it can help to remove these, because now you're vibrating at a much higher frequency, and they just kind of slide off, almost like you're coating yourself in Teflon, and it feels good. So I like it. In nature, we are part of this physical world. We are not separate from it. We are nature, and nature is us. We are intertwined, intimately intertwined. Nature is sentient. It has thoughts. Trees have thoughts. Plants have thoughts. Moss has thoughts. bacteria, and anything that lives has some level of thoughts. The Native Americans believe that water has thoughts, that stone has thoughts, that air has thoughts. Nature is sentient, and the more time we spend in it, the better we are, because it's always in balance. It feeds the positive, it starts the negative. This is the reason why when you go to healing retreats and health spas, generally they're located somewhere in nature. They're not located on the 32nd floor of an office building in Times Square. They're in nature. So we can raise frequency. High frequency is not affected by low frequency. High frequency tends to be positive. Low frequency tends to be negative. Meditation, over 5,000 articles in the traditional medical literature looking at the benefits of regular meditation for any illness and for all illnesses and diseases. Do Qigong or in Oriental medicine, or prana in Ayurvedic medicine, over 800 articles in the traditional medical literature. Being in nature often is profoundly healing, and that's the reason why we tend to crave to be in nature, be in the mountains, be by the ocean. This is an interesting one. And sending healing energy to others, that healing energy has to go through you before it goes to somebody else. As it goes through you, it helps to heal you, helps to raise your own frequency. So being kind and best wishes and healing energy to others, you actually help yourself. And if you really want to help yourself, learn how to become an energy healer, because now you're channeling even larger amounts of healing and energy to others. And as you do that, it heals you. So if you want to be healthy, the bottom line is to stop feeding your black wolf and just really start focusing on positive thoughts and your white wolf. So I want to thank you for spending time here with me on this beautiful winter day. For all of you folks who are in the Chicago area, stay dry and stay warm. If you send me an email with a question, I will answer it. It might take me a week or so, depending upon how many emails there are, but I will answer it. If you could limit it to one email or to one question, or two questions, that would make my life so much easier and stimulate my positive thoughts and not my negative thoughts. So thank you very much, and the best of health for you going forward. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Massey. Absolutely fascinating. And what a wonderful job you did taking a very complex subject and kind of honing it down for us. So yeah, wow, very fascinating. And I understand there's, so much more to learn, right? They've just kind of tapped into it. So
yes, yeah, I condensed about 7 lectures into this to this one, so it was coming fast and furious.
yep, and you did an excellent job. Thank you so much. And I just
Thank you.
want to remind our audience that if you do have questions, Dr. Massey has graciously said that he would answer them. So if you want to just take a minute, because this will be your only opportunity to do that, you can take a minute and type them into the chat bubble on your screen, submit them, and then I'll get them and I will forward them to Dr. Massey. So, wow. Yeah, I think I'm going to listen to this one again just to comprehend it and let my brain work and think about it.
Going to think about your thoughts.
I'm going to think about my thoughts, yes. And just to remind our audience as well, about an hour after we end this presentation today, you will receive an email with a link to the replay. So be sure to look for that. It should go directly to your email, with whatever email you signed up for, but always check your spam folder just in case. So be on the lookout for that. And yes, and I'd like to thank you once again. Thank the NHRI for hosting this wonderful information, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Cool.
So, all right.
All
Thank
right,
you,
Sue,
everyone.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye now.